Hello everyone, my name is Kate Marshall. The name of my channel is called Inked Paper Art, and today is day 90 of 365 days of junk journal ideas. And we are going to work in the Blue Beauty, the French Blue Beauty journals. I am finishing them up. I have made 3 of them. Today we are going to be talking about, we're going to make a cover piece for this, and this is going to be done in the next couple of videos. I already printed off the images to put on there. I'll give you a sneak peek of that. This is one of the images. I loaded the file for the images in Etsy. So if you look in the description box below the video, the link to my Etsy store is in there. There are 12 images in that file and it is listed already in Etsy. So if you want to get a jump start on making the topper with me, in the next couple of videos, we'll make that. And anyway, if you want that image or those images, they're in Etsy. But today we're going to work on putting the closure in, because before we can put our topper on, we need to put our closure for the junk journal in. That way, when we put the topper on, we make sure that we're not, impeding the use of a closure. So anyway, this one is the one that is almost completely done. This one has a signature put into it, but it doesn't have any lace on the page edges. Typically, I like to put the closure on my journal before I've added the lace on the page edges and before I've decorated any of the cover. I don't have any lace on the cover, etc. So this is the one that we're going to put a closure on today. This one I have already put the signature in and I have already put lace on. If you've already got lace on, it's no big deal. I'm going to show you how to do it in both. But we're going to put a closure on. The closure that we're doing today is a seam binding closure. I brought over a bunch of different seam bindings for us to choose from. There's everything from like gold seam binding to cream to white to different shades of blue, all different kinds here. I'm just going to turn off this autofocus. There we go. And so we're going to pick out a seam binding color and we're going to add our closure. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to use the Crop-a-dile tool. If you are in need of a Crop-a-dile, I will link one below from Amazon. I'll link this kit that comes with the eyelets and the plastic case to hold your Crop-a-dile. I like this one a lot because it allows you to keep everything all in one place. And the Crop-a-dile has a lock on it. It's this little pin right here by my tip of my finger. That's how you lock it closed, and you have to give it a squeeze and push that lock to the other side so that your handles open up all the way. A lot of people think that their Crop-a-dile is broken because it won't open up enough here because it's locked closed. So just make sure that if you think your Crop-a-dile is broken, that you check that. Okay, first things first is we need to put our holes in to put our eyelet in for our seam binding. So I'm going to work in the one that doesn't have any lace just because it is going to let you guys see exactly what I'm doing. So this is our junk journal cover, and normally, people will measure and they will find exactly the center point and all of that good stuff. If you want to do that, I will do it the right way and then I will do it my way. Normally, you would measure your cover, and we know that these covers are 9 inches, but normally you would measure your cover and you would find the center point, which would be 4.5 inches, and that's where you will put your hole. I'm just going to hold it with my finger. Now you could mark it, you could do anything you want to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this first hole punched. Before I do that, you have a large hole punch and a small hole punch. We're going to use the large hole punch. The large hole punch is the 3/16 inch hole. Yep, the 3/16 inch hole. So there's a 1/8 inch hole and a 3/16. The 3/16 is the large one. That's the one we're using. And the best way to do it is to just, you can eyeball it, honestly. You don't really need to measure. But just for today, we're going to do it right there. I'm going to look. I'm going to slide it in. And I just want my eyelet in far enough and my cover to where it's going to, so I put it right here. It's in far enough from the edge that it's not going to tear out. You want to leave yourself a good, 1/4 of an inch or so there in between your hole and your edge, so that when you're putting stress on your closure, it doesn't eventually tear the junk journal cover itself. So after you punch your hole on this side, what I like to do is I like to take my cover and bend it backwards so that I have both pieces of my cover together. And then I just look through and I say, okay, fine, there's the hole. And I'm going to mark it again and I'm going to punch it again. And now make sure that you're using the same large hole punch that you used the first time. And you're going to give that a little squeeze. These do not have to be exactly evenly lined up. It does not matter because they're in the general vicinity. It doesn't matter if they're exactly even with each other. We do the best we can without adding a whole bunch of stress to our day, right? So just put them in as best as you can. Then we're going to go ahead and put 2 eyelets in. I'm using an antique bronze color eyelet, and it's just the one that I like to use the most. It's most antique looking, and so there's those. And we're going to put 1 in each one of these holes. And so if you need instructions with the Crop-a-dile or you need help, you can reach out to me during one of the lives and I can answer questions live that way too. Your Crop-a-dile has different settings up here. It has this little one that has like a I don't know how to say, a pointy piece on it, and it has one that has more of a domed piece on it. So there's a domed one. This is the domed one, and then it has one that has the pointy thing. So for this size eyelet, because eyelets do come in different sizes, I made myself a little cheat sheet, and this might be helpful to you, but it depends. This is the eyelet I'm using right here, this large bronze one. And that's telling me I need the large nib and the silver domed piece. And so I just made a cheat sheet with what eyelets I have. When you get your Crop-a-dile, you could make a little cheat sheet like this because I had 3 different size eyelets. Maybe you only have 1 size eyelet, so it's not a big deal to you. But for the tiny little eyelets that you get at Hobby Lobby, it's the small nib and the copper domed thing. For the regular size scrapbooking eyelets that you can find pretty much everywhere, the We Are Memory Keeper scrapbooking eyelets, it's the large nib and the gold domed thing. These ones are extra big and they're a large nib and a silver. So that means I want the large nib, this guy here, as opposed to the tiny nib, this guy. So I don't know how much you can see. That's the small one. This is the large one. And so these spin. To spin them, you have to have them straight and you have to pull them out. So there's the large one. And then we have the silver little nib down there at the bottom. So basically you put your eyelet in your hole with the side that you want to see as your outside on the front side of your cover. And then the little part goes through the hole there and it sticks out. And then you put it through and pinch it. And I'll show you again up close. So you've got it through on your cover this way and it's all smooth and flush. And you've squeezed it on and it's all smooth and flush down here. This is exactly how you want it. If you want to give it, because it's a cover, if you want to give it another little squeeze, you can. There we go. And that's on. Now for this one, when I do this side, I will hold it up to the camera and I will show you exactly what's happening there. So you have your hole. This is your hole right here, right where my fingertip is, right there. There's your hole going through to the back side. You're going to take your eyelet, put your eyelet into that hole. And this is, again, it's an oversized eyelet, so you do have to push it in a little bit. But there it is. So it's flush with our fabric cover. On the back side, you've got that little nib sticking through right there. And then you're going to take your Crop-a-dile with the pointy part. The pointy part goes in the hole. So pointy part in the hole, pointy part at the top. And then you squeeze down, and that's just going to crimp that metal. It crimps the metal and makes it nice and flush down here at the back side. And that's what's going to hold your seam binding in. And so you can see, even though I just did them just visually, they're really just perfect. And that's really how I normally do them. I usually never measure. So there's that. Your eyelets are in, your Crop-a-dile is done. You can go ahead and push the pin in to lock it. If you get the one with the case, you do have to lock it to put it into your case. It doesn't really go in your case when it's not locked. And so there's that. Now let's pick out a seam binding for this guy. So I know that we have some gold lace going on the inside, so I will continue that gold lace on this one. And I do believe that I want the gold kind of seam binding. And so there are a couple bags here that have a gold color in them. I'm going to go with the darker gold. I don't know if you guys can see. There's a darker and a lighter gold. I'm going to go with that. So we will have seam binding again soon. The seam binding comes like this. It's in process now, but it takes a while to make because we have to make a million of them, you know. So anyway, we have the gold seam binding out. And there's our seam binding. Of course, it's a little bit tangled. Find an end to your seam binding. And to crinkle the seam binding, I've told you guys before, it's just water to crinkle it. You know, it just crinkles up nicely with water. So what you want to do is you want to give yourself, it depends on how much bow you want or how much tail you want. I'm going to go 4 times my cover, just lightly stretching it out per side. And that's going to give me enough to tie it. So 4 times is what I did. And then I'm just going to measure that exactly the same. I mean, you know, it's crinkly, so it's not really exact, but I'm just going to rough measure it to be the same. So now I have 2 ties, and I went 4 times the height of my journal cover. It's not really an exact science because everybody ties a different bow, right? So then you take your seam binding and you put your tails together, just like this, your tails together. You find the center part with your finger here because your tails, you're holding them. Find your center part and then take that center part and you're just going to flatten it out and give it a little twist to make the end small. And you're going to take it from the back side through the hole, pull it through just to give yourself a loop right here. Once you have that loop, you just tuck your tails are over here, tuck your tails through that loop. And that's really all you do. You don't need to tie a knot or anything like that. Your seam binding is now attached to your journal. And then when you do the other side, we'll tie a big bow. So I left these ones nice and long because, you know, then at least you have a lot of room to play to make a pretty bow, or you could do a double bow even. And so this is a seam binding closure. There's many different types of closures for junk journals. There's elastic closures. There's toppers that have elastic, which we're going to make for the botanical journal. There's all different kinds. There's sari silk. I mean, tons and tons of different styles of binding and different styles of closures. This one is probably one of the most popular ones. To close up a junk journal is the eyelets with the seam binding or crinkled seam binding. So there we go. And so after you've got it through both front and back hole, and again, you don't tie a knot here or anything. I mean, you could, but I don't see the need for it. You're just going to tie yourself a bow here. So you put both strings together to tie the bow. And this one, you know, it doesn't have any ephemera in it or anything else right now. So it's going to get a little bit bigger, but not much. And, you know, you've got a total of 4 strings here. And you've got yourself a floppy little bow. You can make it larger or smaller depending on how you want it to be. Now this seam binding just came out of this plastic bag and it is a little bit, you know, it needs a little bit of breathing space, but there you go. So there's your little crinkled seam binding closure. And again, you can make it as short or as long as you want it to be. But now that we have that on, we can continue and work on putting our topper together. So the next couple videos, we'll do the topper for these. This one's still going to have lace down the side. So it'll have this gold lace coming out from this side, which is why I used this gold seam binding. So it'll have the lace coming out just like this. Then it will have this lace down the spine, and it will have the topper that we're going to build. So these are all 3 different steps of the journal making process. We have the closure, And that would be what I would do first. So after I sewed my signature in, I would put my closure on. Then I would add the lace to the side edges of my pages. So all of this lace that's added here, it's just glued on the edges of your page. I'm trying to do it one-handed. So just glue the lace on the edges. After you get the side lace on, then I typically would construct my topper and make sure that, you know, I'm happy with where it's going to be placed before I added the lace down the spine of it. So normally this is the last step. For this one, because it was made during the lives for this junk journal series, we went ahead and put the lace on. But no problem. I'm still going to make the topper for it. So there's that. And these images, they're basically like, you know, not even Victorian. They're French Baroque lady images. And so that's what I'm going to use for the topper. They will have lots and lots of lace on the toppers. We're going to construct a cover piece. So a junk journal topper is a separate element that gets glued on or affixed to a journal cover. So that's what we're going to make with those images. It's not just a matter of gluing the image on, it's constructing a whole topper piece that goes on the front of the journal. So anyway, we've got our closure in. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. I know it's a short and sweet video, and it's something that a lot of you guys have seen before, but we always have new people, and you guys have asked me to show you how to do the topper. So I went ahead and did the video for you because it's the next logical step before we make, I showed you the closure because you guys have asked for the closure, but it's the next logical step before we make the topper. Okay, guys, I will see you guys again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.